I think sharing it again, I was like, man, I really can't go back to my apartment. There is no way I'm going back there.
And then just seeing how bad it was when I went by myself and knowing that you were kind of like in the apartment by yourself, like, that made me sad.
Things can start off hard and wrong, but that doesn't mean that God is not in it or with you.
Things looked hopeless, things looked really bad, and it almost looked as though there's no way out of this circumstance.
They're not trying to get you out that lease.
Yeah.
They will do whatever they can to keep you there. But I feel like we had enough evidence by then. It was to the point where I was like, this is overwhelming. Like, if you don't let me out, y'all are foul.
Don't be quick to assume that God has abandoned you or that you've done something wrong when you're going through something hard.
Yeah. Oh, snap. You push a little button and it start.
Hey, if you're just tuning in, I hit a button and then it started recording. It was pretty dope.
Next level.
We did that. That didn't happen the last time we shot.
No, we used a trackpad on the laptop.
Yep. We moving on up.
Moving on up.
Moving on up to the east side. I don't know what. Why did you laugh?
I don't know the rest of the.
Okay, that's what I was about to say, and then you laughed. I was like, "Do you know the rest of the song?"
Is it to the east side?
I don't know, babe.
Is it because you live on the east side of Baltimore?
Don't be lyric checking me on camera. I'm sensitive about that, guys. I be making up my own words, and it sounds great.
No, it does.
It does sound great. It sounds like it could, like, if I was in the writing room, it would have been like, oh yeah, they probably would have taken some of my suggestions when I'm getting lyrics wrong.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, actually, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Wait, they would think your lyrics are the right lyrics. And what's actually there is not right.
Yeah. That would be great. I think, in another life, or maybe later on in this life, I will be a songwriter. I feel it.
Okay.
I don't know why you keep laughing at very heartfelt things that I say.
You're not being heartfelt. Well, I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's like, you know what? Let's just get into it. Let's just, you look lovely.
Thank you, babe.
Yeah.
It's a bun year. Bun day. Bun week.
Bun day.
I usually don't wear buns.
Really?
No. When have you ever seen me
that's
in a bun?
Right. You usually, like, buns are not like you do puffs.
I do puffs.
Not buns.
I'll do low buns.
Low buns.
But I don't do buns on my head.
Yeah. What was the inspiration?
That I can finally do it.
What? You ain't have enough hair.
So the thing is, buns look easy to do, but you have to have enough hair to do a bun.
Really?
Like, genuinely, like, it's not an easy feat. Like, it's not. You can have hair to like your shoulders, and if you have layers and stuff, it won't go into a bun, depending on your thickness of your hair. So I finally reached the threshold of being able to put my hair in a bun.
Why am I just hearing about this?
Oh, because I never put my hair in a bun before.
Oh,
yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, we're still trying to figure out how to start these things. I don't know. We're just going to get right into it. And by get into it, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Brian.
My name is Deandra.
And this is Where We Landed podcast. There's a couple of thises, like this squared. I don't know.
This is Where We Landed podcast.
Yeah. And this is actually a part 2.
This is a part 2.
Yeah, it was a story time, if I remember correctly.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
It was a story time.
It was a story time, and it was part 1 was called Mice or something.
No, we said the whole thing.
From Mice to Miracles.
Yeah, from Mice to Miracles.
Okay, all right.
So but that part 1 was the mice.
Yeah.
We were focused in on the mice part of the story.
Yeah.
This is going to be more so the miracle part of the story.
All right.
So we're finally on the up and ups.
Yeah. Well,
we're not there yet.
No, you gotta. So I mean, for people who might have just tuned in on this episode, where did we leave off?
Yes. If you just tune in on this episode, you should definitely watch the first one.
Definitely
because it starts from the beginning and like it takes us to where we are now.
Yeah, we're kind of like in the middle of the story.
Yeah, we're in the middle. So this part of the story is I said Thanksgiving time.
Yep.
That's when the mice jumped on me.
Yeah, a mice jumped over. She describes
it was two.
It was two.
I don't know. I saw two mice running in opposite directions.
So anyway, she's not going to rehash it here. You got to go watch the previous episode. But that happened.
Yes.
Yes.
So at this point, we Thanksgiving, and instead I went to a friend's house because I just knew I could not go back to my apartment after that had happened. So that's kind of where we are now. I'm kind of just hopping around. Like I'm just trying to find a place again. Like
you're like bumming it on people's couches.
Kind of, but not really. Like I have family. people to go home.
You're like, please. Like I have homes. Multiple. No, you're like hard pause on that, right?
No, because it's kind of like I was not bumming it. If we're being, I had a room, like my own room. But no, yeah.
Okay, flex.
Nah, it's not a flex. I'm blessed. Thank you, God.
Humble flex.
Not humble flex. So yeah, I was with my sister for a night. That was already planned anyway, despite anything that happened. So that was great. Yeah. Just staying with her. And I stayed with her the night and told her all about what had happened. And I think sharing it again, I was like, man, I really can't go back to my apartment. There is no way I'm going back there. So my sister's in DC, and then my family, my parents' home where I grew up is in PG. So it's literally right there. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just stay in PG. I didn't want to stay there super long because I worked in Baltimore. So that's a commute. That BW Parkway.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's always traffic.
Yeah.
It's like an hour. Anyway, I was grateful.
Were you still at UMBC?
Yes, I was still at UMBC. So yeah, I was commuting. So that period was about 2 weeks that I was doing it. So relatively short, because this is kind of when everything starts kicking off for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything starts kind of like getting better.
Okay.
But before we get to that better part, let's talk about the point before then when I am like, all right, I'm not going back to that apartment. I'm trying to get out this lease. And y'all know, if you've ever had an apartment before, and you haven't, but if you've ever had an apartment, they not trying to get you out that lease.
I don't know why that felt kind of like shady. Like you had.
No.
Like this is for people who have been through something.
No. Kind of like if you know, you know. If you've been in it, you've been in it.
Okay.
They not trying to get you out that lease.
Yeah.
They will do whatever they can to keep you there. Like, so I was kind of just building up my case at this point. And I told you.
I gotta call Cap.
What?
Because you weren't building up your case.
How?
I had to remind you to constantly document things.
No. Yes, you told me to constantly document things, but I'm saying I was building up my case. I was building up my case.
You were like writing down your arguments.
Yeah, I was, and then you remember I sent the long email.
Yeah.
I was building up my case.
Okay, all right, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was building up my case, and I was talking to my mom because she works in legal matters. So I was just like, "How does this look?" You know, like I was just getting that together because you did tell me to document. I had documented all the times that I called, they didn't pick up. The times that I emailed, they didn't answer me.
See, that's why I interrupted, because like the first time, like I feel like in these matters, like they be playing, like they play dumb.
They play dumb.
So I was just like, you really got to keep track of, like, don't do phone calls.
Yeah.
If you do phone calls, always follow up with like an email.
Or voicemail. Or
like just something so that it's like it was purely documented.
Yeah.
I felt like we didn't start off on a strong foot in that regard.
We didn't, but I feel like we had enough evidence by then. It was to the point where I was like, this is overwhelming. Like if you don't let me out, y'all are foul. But anyway, so yeah, I was putting my case together of all the times they didn't respond to me, didn't answer my phone calls. I had the call logs. I had a time when they said maintenance was going to come. And then you remember that time I was like, oh, maintenance is supposed to come. Can you go there?
Yeah.
Because I was in PG, you were in Baltimore. I said they were supposed to come at this certain time and they never came. So I documented that. So there was just a lot of things that I was just putting together to build my case.
Yeah.
And one of the final things that I did to build this case was I told you, babe, can you go into my apartment and take pictures if there's been any more rodent activity since I've been gone these last few days? Yeah. And you did that.
That was crazy. This is when I was just like, at first, I just didn't know. I was just like, okay, see a couple mouse droppings. Some crazy stuff had happened at that point.
Yeah.
But like going in when I did by myself, it was bad.
Babe.
It was like, it went from just like me saying like, oh yeah, there's definitely some rodent activity. It looked like they threw a house party.
That's so crazy.
It looked like they threw a house party and had diarrhea. Because it was just bad. It was just mouse droppings everywhere. It was just like, yo, it's unconscionable. And the reason why I was just shocked because I had been to your place like a few times and it was so pristine.
Yeah.
Like I have to keep saying like it was pristine.
Yeah.
And so like all that, like the way that it was covered, like it was just, I'm triggered.
Can you share a little bit about what you saw? Like where, like
it was
without getting like graphic, you know?
I mean, there's no way to be like graphic. It was just mouse droppings everywhere.
Yeah.
It was in the bathroom, in the tub,
in my closet, through my clothes.
Yeah, because at that point we knew that there had been activity in the closet, and I think prior to that we had like set some traps when we thought it was still something small.
Yeah, when I was like, okay, those two mice.
Yeah,
like,
and we were just like, oh yeah, let's just
yeah.
I mean, they're probably gonna come again. We're gonna get them out of here, and it's just gonna be a great day. It was nah, they had a squad,
and they was reproducing too. They had remember my hamper?
Yeah.
You don't remember?
No. Wait, no. I remember. It was just crazy.
No,
there was
lot.
So much. Like it's hard to remember everything. I know that there was like shavings that they had like chewed through some like clothing.
Yes.
And
so you remember you asked me, you were like, did you put these crumbled pieces of paper on your hamper? I was like, no. And you were like, I think they're making a nest here. And they were making a nest in the hamper because they were like gathering shredded pieces of paper. They were shredding through my clothes. They were like just, embedding themselves in my clothes. I know, isn't it like making you
they made themselves at home.
They did.
And this was like secondhand like grief. I was just like, dang. They put my baby through the ringer.
Yeah.
Like it was bad.
Yeah. It was bad. It was bad. And here's another thing. Like, so you had just like new home was on the horizon.
Yeah.
You had just we technically, but really you, honestly, because you were on the loan papers. You were really the one that we're looking at the finances for to get it pre-approved and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So we were like closing on a home, and you closed. We closed.
Yeah.
And the date for that was December 1st.
And here's what's crazy, because I was like, oh, I want to treat this like a birthday gift for myself. I was actually advocating for a closing date of December 20th.
Right.
Because it was like, happy birthday to me, you know,
happy birthday, Ryan.
New house is going to be the perfect gift. And they were like, no.
Yeah.
They were like, it was like a flat no.
No, because the house that we had been wanting had been on the market for like 3 months.
Yeah, it was like
sitting
90
there.
days.
It was kind of strange because we were like, this is a beautiful house.
Yeah. Did we even talk about like how like it was after a date night that we just kind of went to go see?
No, we should talk about that.
Should we? So, or are we? Is this part of the same story?
I think this is part of the same. No, this is part of the same story because it kind of it falls in. So, the house that we were about to settle on
Yeah. That we're in now.
That we're about to settle on at the time.
Yeah.
It was very exciting for us because a lot of things happened at that time.
Yep.
It was a beautiful home in a beautiful, awesome neighborhood.
Yep.
Like literally when it's Baltimore City, right? It's a city. But when I came into this neighborhood, I was like, this feels so peaceful and quaint. It feels like our own little oasis.
Yeah.
It's like all this stuff is happening outside, but then you just come here and it's like naturally
yeah,
quiet. And I loved it. And it was also out of our price range.
Absolutely. So
especially because we weren't doing it together.
Yeah.
We weren't on the loan together.
It's not on my shoulders because I was like, God, if you want me to have this house, you got to step in.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he stepped in.
He did. And I want to share something that I think is really important.
What?
We wouldn't have had this house had we not had the faith for it.
I believe, yeah.
This is a faith house.
Definitely. Definitely. Because I remember, seeing the house for the first time on Redfin. And I was just like, man, this is such a cool house. I was just like, too bad it's outside of our price range. And I said something along the lines of, if we were to get it, it would be a miracle.
Yep.
And your response was, I love a good miracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the rest is history.
From there, we started just believing for it.
What was it? I think it was like September 13th. I wrote on my bathroom mirror. I was like, I will own. Oh, we're gonna cut that out. Just you don't know where.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be anywhere.
Yeah.
I think. Anyway, just to be safe, we'll cut that out. I'm going to own blank. And then I did it as like a little math equation because they said Jesus is above every name and said in Jesus. And then the denominator was name.
You're so clever.
Yeah. But I literally wrote that. And then after that, as a total faith move, not knowing whether or not we would qualify for the financing or any of that, we just said, let's tour the home.
Yeah, let's tour the home.
Yeah. This was after visiting it, after one of our date nights.
Yeah, we went around the neighborhood.
And yeah, we went around the neighborhood. It was really cool. And then the crazy part, I don't know if this is considered like part of an attack or just my bad driving. We got into an accident.
We did get into
so much happened in that one day. Because I'd also taken you like ring shopping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then coming home from ring shopping, got into an accident.
Yep.
That
was bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, why did we take that tangent?
I guess to share all the things that were happening.
Yeah, but a lot was happening.
A lot was happening. So this is all, and I'm recalling all this stuff while I'm in the situation. Because you know how sometimes you're in a situation, you're kind of like, why God? I don't understand.
Absolutely.
But then as you're like, kind of like putting the pieces together, it's kind of like it catches up. And I feel like the Spirit gives you discernment and understanding too. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, oh snap, this makes so much sense. So that was kind of what was happening for me while I was in the house. Like I was just like, we're about to close on a home we never thought that we could ever have. It is in a beautiful, awesome neighborhood. Like this is an answer to prayer. Like all this warfare, the mice, the accidents, it's like makes so much sense. And in my mind too, I was like, okay, we're supposed to close on this home in December 1st. And we wanted to get married in February.
Yeah.
But we knew we could not do all of that stuff in terms of finances, right? Like get a new home, do a wedding. And I was living in the apartment. So that was $1,400 a month that like I wasn't able to save. I would have been able to save for a wedding if I wasn't living there. But I had to. So that was an extra 7, 14, 20, 20. That would have been like $3,500 right there in rent before our wedding. And in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, this could be an opportunity for me to get out of that lease early through all of this, through all the mice, through all the issues. Like, this could be truly a setup for a miracle, in all honesty. Because if I didn't get out of that apartment, it would have been hard.
Yeah.
Do you think we could have done all the things we did?
We definitely would have like scraped by.
We would have used credit cards.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So while I was there, I was writing out everything, and then you sent the videos of all the evidence. Yep. So I compiled all that information and I sent it over.
Google Drive folder.
Yes, in a Google Drive folder.
Hard evidence.
Yeah.
You know?
Cold case.
It was a cold.
Wait.
No, it was a hot case.
Yeah, it's a hot case.
Because
cold is when it's...
Yeah, it's like
cold is when it's stalled.
There's no leads.
Okay. No, this was a hot case.
Yeah, it's a hot case.
So I sent it over, and no. Before that happened, I sent my first initial email, and I said, hey, like, I'm really like, this is too much. I sent over my call logs and all the information. I was just like, I don't want to be in this apartment anymore. I do not feel safe. And then the person called me back, the manager, and she was just like, let's see what we can do. I'm going to hire a cleaning person to come to you. Mm-hmm. And then she said something else. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. Like, I guess that's fine. As long as they have someone to help with the issue, I'll accept those terms. And then you sent me that.
Yeah.
Then you sent me the videos and the pictures. Yeah. And I was like, actually, no, I need to get out of here. And I sent the videos to her, and she called. And long story short, I think we talked about the time in July or when my roof had caved in.
Yeah.
In the last episode. Yep. So the person that I was talking to had the opportunity to go into the apartment and see how I kept the house. And when I sent her the final evidence and I told her I wanted to move out, she just felt so like bad for me.
Yeah.
Like there was so much compassion that she had for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like truly a grace, because she was just saying like, I know you kept your home so pristine. And she was just like, also like the way you responded to that situation of the house caving in, like, I know you're a good person. Like she was just like, so many other people would have like just been like upset or hostile or things. But she was like, you responded in such a positive way, and you've always been such a great tenant. Your room is beautiful. Like I told the regional manager came in and we were talking about how we want this to be the model home. Like it was just so much favor and grace that I had, that helped my case in the end of like moving out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was special. She said something like, I'm a discerner of spirits. And I was just like,
what do you mean?
That's always kind of hard, right? I'm like, what do you mean? But
what do you mean by that?
I think what she was trying to say was like, I know that you have, maybe she just thought it was a positive spirit, but we know it's the Holy Spirit, right? And she knew that was good and that there was favor there because of it. So, yeah, in the end, she ended up saying, okay, we're going to let you out of your lease early. And I got out. So that was a miracle in itself.
And then after that, like the timing was phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
The last day that you were able to be in there was November 2nd?
December 3rd.
December 3rd?
Yeah.
It was December 3rd.
Right.
But you had to be, what was the day that you had to be out?
I had to be out by December 3rd.
Oh, you had to be out by December
3rd.
Yeah. And so if I had pushed out my, the closing date, if I got in my way, we wouldn't have had the home that Deandra was able to move into.
Yeah.
You know? And so I thought that was just like really cool timing.
Yeah,
you know?
It was. Because literally right when I canceled my lease, I was practically able to move into the new home until we got married. And that was special too because, wait, what
are you saying?
I feel like yours is probably going to be more cool.
No, it kind of dovetailed into that point, is that when you moved into moved into the house, when you close, usually they'll pay off about 2 months worth of your mortgage in the closing process. It's calculated into that figure. And so for 2 months, you didn't have to pay rent.
Yeah.
And you were just living in the house.
Yeah. With a mortgage that we didn't have to worry about.
Yeah. Until February, which would be after our wedding at that time.
Yeah.
So that was just like really like the
really
way
divine.
The dominoes were just kind of lining up was really cool. And I think I don't know what our process or thought like thinking would have been around planning for the wedding and all the finances of it had it not been for like this circumstance.
Yeah. I agree. Not paying rent was huge.
Yeah.
It gave us thousands of dollars to put towards our wedding. No doubt. And then on top of that, I got a new job in that season too.
Yep.
So I went up a significant salary.
Yeah. 20K,
and
right? Or 10.
10K. 10K. And also I got vacation payout from my previous job of like $3,000. So it was just like so much provision. And like it was really amazing. So yeah, it was just a miracle. All I know is that we had the faith to believe for something bigger. Yeah. And we had the faith to believe for this house. And I don't, sometimes I think people are just.
And I mean, we didn't even talk about all the miracles. I really do feel like it's its own thing.
Its own thing, the house.
Yeah. Because there's like, we didn't even get into the fact that there was no down payment.
Yeah, there was no down payment.
No down payment.
Or closing costs,
Or closing costs, plus an additional $30K.
Yeah.
In
we got
like that went
help.
towards the principal of the home. Stuff. Just crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or down payment. It went towards the down payment.
Yeah, so we didn't have to bring any money to settlement.
Nope.
Which is huge. Like some people
outside
are like
of the earnest money deposit.
Yeah. And that was it.
That was it.
Yeah. But yeah, that is kind of like its own episode.
It's its own episode.
I had dreams about this house.
Yeah.
Like dreams of prices slashing.
That's the next like story.
That was huge. That was huge. And I think something that was special too is like, I don't think it's having faith for faith's sake.
Yeah.
And I mean that to say like, I think like, I don't think faith is, I don't think it's just saying, I want that house, I'm going to have it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I think it was like this open-handed thing. Yeah. And then as we moved and prayed and believed and like did the work through it, we were seeing how God was on our side for it.
Yeah.
It was kind of just like he was helping us get to this promise that we wanted.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like how faith operates. I don't think it's just always like this name it, claim it thing. Like, that's my house. I'm gonna get this house, you know? Yeah.
I was gonna say, it kind of reminds me of, like, if I was to compare it to any biblical story, it reminds me of the Israelites after their exodus from Egypt, and they're kind of wandering, and God tells them to go into the promised land. He sends 12 spies to sort of scope out the land first, like before he gives it to them or whatever. He sends them to spy out the land. And I think that in and of itself is like an act of faith. And of the 12, only 2 came back with like a good report.
Yeah.
And I, to me, like, if I was to compare it to like the house situation, I think it was a matter of just like, all right, we don't have the finances. We don't have like every I dotted, every T crossed, but let's at least see the house.
Yeah.
Let's at least check it out. And we did that twice. The first time was just like us coming into the neighborhood, seeing what it's like at night, because usually, I mean, it's still Baltimore.
Yeah.
So you got to check
different.
that. Yeah, you got to check that out. You got to be safe. You got to be wise.
Yeah.
We did that, and then the next step that we took was doing the tour. And then another step of faith was like calling around and seeing like, all right,
pre-approval.
Well, yeah, the pre-approval process. And it was just like step after step after step, without even knowing exactly how it would turn out, because the number that we saw was just like, any other person probably would have just said nah.
Yeah. And also like God graces us with faith too.
Yeah.
Like he gave us faith for this house.
Yeah.
This is not something that we just could have in ourselves. Like I truly do believe God has graced us with that faith and like helped us along the journey with it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
With part 2 in the bag, where have you landed?
Where have I landed on what?
On mice to miracles.
On mice to miracles.
What would be the thing that you want people to take away from this episode?
I think the greatest thing is that things can start off hard and wrong, but that doesn't mean that God is not in it or with you.
Yeah.
I think like when things start off hard or things are just going bad, like my first thought as a human is like, God, you have left me for these mice. They are running around. Like, like I felt very abandoned. And I think that's just like the human experience, because we can only see so far. Like we can only see to the stop sign, but God sees stop sign around the corner, back to the light, down the highway. Like, but we are so like, our sight is just short. Yeah. But it really did like put something inside of me to say like, like even if this is starting hard, like I truly do believe God can still work a miracle out of it. And I think like it also showed me like the greatest things, like you're gonna face warfare, you're gonna face attacks, you're gonna face hard moments, but that's when you really need to lean in and trust like, okay, God, there has to be something good on the other side if I'm getting this much attack on something. And I think the biggest thing is kind of just like, don't give up, even when it gets hard. And I know those feelings of abandonment feel so real. And that can be a real feeling, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's truth, because he didn't leave you, you know? And I think oftentimes we'll get to the end of the journey and we're just like, oh, wow, God was there the whole time, but then you get in the next situation and it's the same cycle over again. I think it's important to learn like, okay, I am human, but God He hadn't failed me before. This is like one of those stories that like stick with me forever. Yeah. Like, and I really do want it to change how I approach the next storm, because the next storm is going to happen. Absolutely. So yeah, God can work even through the messiest of situations, and that doesn't a hard situation in the moment does not mean a hard finish. Yeah. It could be a miracle.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And I'm definitely a big believer in how something starts is not how it has to end. I think one of the things that really anchors me in times of difficulty is the stories of scripture. But like more than that are the experiences that we can look at in our lives that really point to a time where things looked hopeless, things looked really bad, and it almost looked as though there's no way out of this circumstance. And still like knowing that on the other side of that, in the uncertainty, in the messiness of it all, like God was there, and the end of the story is just like something beautiful or something where you feel like a lot of joy and victory and stuff like, because at that time, like like watching you go through everything you went through. I had a little bit of inner turmoil. Like I was like going through it, like just the process of like trying to get the house was its own sort of, it was its own thing. There was like fear, there was like lots of anxiety connected to it.
I think you bore more of that weight than I did, for sure.
Yeah. It was crazy. But again, like I wouldn't have done it any other way because it really did open a lot of doors for you to be able to exit your lease. We were able to save more money, and we just had like, I consider this like really like a really beautiful testimony of just like of what God can do. That doesn't even do what I'm trying to say justice. But it's just like, man, like if I was to attach it to a scripture, like, and this may be very like churchy, but like in the Bible, like where it says like the latter house will be greater than the former. Yeah, I'm not sure, but like that's how I feel. Like this is a home. Like I bought a home before, but there were definitely more challenges and miracles attached to this. And, you know, like it's a house that I get to share with you, like my wife, you know, someone that I've been praying for, that I've been praying for a long time. So it's just, I don't know. I don't think it can be overstated the way that God works through hardship and difficulty, in the sense that like, you know, don't be quick to assume that God has abandoned you or that you've done something wrong when you're going through something hard. You know, it's that same principle that Jesus was talking to his disciples when they met somebody who was like handicapped in some way. He was like, who sinned, this person or their mother, like, or their parents or whatever? And Jesus said like, neither of them. Like, why are you assuming? Why are you assuming that someone had to have done something bad for them to be going what they like? This is done so that my glory could be shown. You know?
Yeah. And I'm sorry, every time I think about that too, I always think about the vine and the branches. Of just like Jesus saying like, I'm the vine, you are the branches, and how like anything that doesn't bear fruit, he cuts it off. But anything that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it bears even greater fruit. So kind of like what you were saying before, of just like, we oftentimes think we're doing something wrong if we're going through the pruning or the cutting or it hurts, but you could be doing everything right. And he just wants to produce more of that in you. So I definitely agree. As humans, like our first thought is like, what did I do? I sinned. If something's going wrong, but like maybe you do have faith, but he wants even greater faith from you, you know? So he's like putting you through, like walking with you through seasons that are hard so that it produces greater faith.
How do you want to end these?
I don't know. That was great.
That was great. It was a good episode, man.
I like not us praising our own episode.
What was it about like elementary school where they told you to pat yourself on the back?
They
that
did.
Was just like the biggest compliment.
That was huge.
You gotta learn how to
Maybe we need to get
yourself.
back to that, you know? Like, why is that bad?
It's not that bad. It just feels immature. Like imagine being in a meeting, crushing a presentation, and then you just go like, I mean, that's well, not in front of but you like at the end of the presentation before you sit down, you just like pat yourself.
He lacks humility. That's what we would say.
Weird. I haven't seen that since
elementary school.
1984. Do they still do that?
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Peace.